We're taking a look at another theist video with bad arguments. This one was pretty irritating. The arguments in this video were just obviously bad. If you agree or don't, and as long as you have reasons why, share them and we can discuss it. Alrighty, let's look at this.
We want to thank you for joining us here this morning. Those of you that are online, we want to thank you for joining us today. I'm going to prove to you that God exists.
Well, you think you can prove God exists? Please, go ahead, be my guest. I'll make popcorn.
Today, I want to talk to you about why I am not an atheist. I was an atheist, but I want to talk to you about why I am not an atheist. And we're going to have a good time as we do it. But as we get into this, it's very important because it is easy as we begin to discuss theism versus atheism, as we begin to discuss naturalism versus supernaturalism.
Naturalism versus supernaturalism. You plan on defining and comparing these? Cool. I can't wait.
As we begin to talk about these things, it's very easy for everybody to gather in their own corner and gather in their own cluster, in their own group, and get surrounded by the people who believe just like they believe and think just like they think. And it's very easy to have Christian music and Christian television and kind of be just saturated in the things that you want to be saturated in, never exposing yourself to the beliefs or the ideologies of others. But it's important today that we don't just sit back and make fun of those who don't hold to the truths that we believe to be self-evident. And we could sit here and make jokes and say, how does an atheist do her hair? With big bangs. We could do that. We could talk about what does an agnostic, dyslexic insomniac do? Lays awake all night wondering if there really is a dog. One lady's husband went insane and thought he was dead. He was convinced of it. She said, honey, you're not dead. We're having a conversation right now. But he believed he was. And so they went to doctors and more doctors and more doctors. And eventually they had a team of psychiatrists working around the clock with him to try to convince him that he was not dead. And this team decided, we've got one truth we want to get across to him, and it is this: dead people don't bleed. Dead people don't bleed. And so day after day, they hammered that truth into his mind. Dead people do not bleed. They showed him slides. They showed him videos. Medical professionals came in and testified to the reality of it. Dead people do not bleed. Until the reality of it dawned on his mind, he said, yes, of course, I agree. Dead people do not bleed. And then quickly, one of the psychiatrists pricked him with a pin and blood gushed out. And the man said, great Scott, apparently dead people do bleed. The truth is that
The truth is that for how unfunny your jokes are, it's hilarious that the only funny point you made is that people that believe in incredible things can choose to believe in more and more incredible things. Again, it's almost like you didn't realize that your joke was making fun of religious people.
that some people will never be convinced. You cannot talk them into anything, and the reality is because they have a hidden agenda, which we'll talk about more as we dive into this.
Okay, so you say some people can't be talked into anything because they have a hidden agenda. But what does that mean? The fact of the matter is that the only idea that links all atheists is that we are not willing to make believe that any gods exist. If you could talk someone into believing that without actual evidence, then you may be a skillful persuader / manipulator, or they could be weak-minded or otherwise susceptible to impression or coercion.
It's important that you understand that generally people believe what they believe for very good reasons.
That's a lie. People believe what they are convinced of, but being convinced isn't the same as the matter being factual. Believing something based on non-fact is a good and quick way to believing outrageously false claims.
George Bernard Shaw, I'd like to begin with a quote from him, who's probably one of the most pronounced free liberal thinkers in history, playwright.
What the fuck does Bernard Shaw have to do with anything? He was a playwright that was born in 1856 and died in 1950 at 94 years old. He wasn't a scientist, and even if he was, a quote about his feelings doesn't mean God exists.
As we dive into this, I want to share with you why I am not an atheist. And as we continue through this series in this month,
Yeah, we don't need to stick around for a whole series of this.
I'm going to share with you later why I am a Christian. They are two very different things.
If you were an atheist and you had some experience which convinced you that God is real, then why you are not an atheist and why you are a Christian is the same thing. Sounds like more pandering to reinforce cognitive dissonance as a positive?
And then we'll get into why the great I am which will be the culmination of this series.
You see the great I am, but that sounds like nonsense without context. But now that I think about it, I'm sure it wouldn't sound any better with context.
That's a good point. When you're talking about an atheist, you're not dealing with someone who is unintelligent normally, and quite the contrary. They are very intelligent. These are not ignorant people, but these are willfully ignorant people of eternal truths that they are attempting to sidestep.
You just said atheists are intelligent but willfully ignorant because they don't believe in God. Why does everything you say sound like you're making fun of theists?
And to step around. So I want to talk to you today about why I am not an atheist, and maybe it will give you some food for thought. Maybe it will give you not ammunition. I don't want you to see any kernel of truth as ammunition.
I love your usage of the idiom kernel of truth, as it is fitting. You may find little truths at some point to help you cling to your fictitious beliefs.
If you find yourself in a position where you claim to be an atheist, before you leave here today, and before this is over today, you will no longer be an atheist. I'm making that guarantee. I'm making that promise. If you will hang in here with me, if you watch me right here live on Facebook or streaming through our website, if you'll just stay here with me by the time I'm done, you will not be an atheist.
A guarantee and a promise that I will no longer be an atheist after hearing you preach? Yeah, fucking right, bro.
Why I am not an atheist. Number one, this is not something that will be very popular for the atheist among us, but I am not an atheist because God declares that it is a foolish thing to be an atheist. You say, well, that won't convince anyone. Well, we'll get to that when we talk about why I am a Christian. So let's move on to the next point, which is a very savory point and something we can sink our intellectual teeth in. Why I'm not an atheist? I'm not an atheist because reason confirms that it is a fool's religion. I am not an atheist because atheism is irrational. Say it with me. Atheism is irrational. Say it one more time. Atheism is irrational. Why? As a worldview, atheism, so often as the different worldviews and religions are brought out on the stage to give a defense for why they believe what they believe, the atheist stays in the audience, seated, casting dispersions and questions with no question marks at the end, and saying, well, how can you not prove the existence of God?
Atheists don't say, how could you not prove the existence of God? It would sound more like, can you prove God exists?
Introduce yourself and say, hi, I'm a Christian. And they would say, well, I'm an atheist. And you say, well, I believe in God. And they say, well, prove it.
I can't think of why an atheist would tell a theist to prove that they believe in God. You seem like a dishonest atheist that is scamming the people that pay attention to him.
You have to prove there is no God, as much as I have to prove there is. And I will prove it to you today.
Still waiting for that proof, bruh.
Look at your neighbor and say, this is going to be good. So atheism is not exempt from having to prove its truth current claims.
Do you not see how dishonest it is to scarecrow the atheist position?
According to the laws of logic, and this is very important, this statement, atheism itself, its very name, is a universal negative. Write down those two words, universal negative. The declaration that there is no God is a universal negative. Now, according to the laws of logic, it is impossible to prove a universal negative.
Sorry, that's a lie. No triangles are round. No squares have three sides. No circles are cubes.
Well, if that's the case, Pastor Allen, you would have to prove that there is a God and be at all places at all times. That's not true. I'm not positing a universal negative. You are. I am simply saying that there is a God. Very different. Here's an example for you to illustrate the difference between the two. If I were to make the statement, there is no gold in the United States of America, that is a universal negative. I would have to be all over the United States, be in every house, be in every cave, dig through all the ground, possess all knowledge. It would be impossible to make the statement, there is no gold in America. However, to say there is gold in America, I don't need to do any of that. I just need to see one gold earring. And the knowledge of one gold earring, you see, the onus or the responsibility for proving the point is more on the atheist than it is on the theist.
Another deceit, either positive or negative. Any claim of fact needs to be supported with evidence to validate the claim.
All I need to know is what God has done for me. And you can't argue with me because you weren't there when He changed me, when He sanctified me, when He took a wretched sinner like me and redeemed me and washed me in His blood and did something atheism could never do, give me purpose. You weren't there. So I am not an atheist because God has declared it to be foolish. I am not an atheist because reason dictates that it's foolish. And I am not an atheist because experience demonstrates that it's deadly.
Of course we weren't there. It's hard to witness a fictional event.
You see, in the past century, the 20th century, it is known as the deadliest century, and it is also coincidentally known as the atheist century.
1. Please provide sources for these claims, as I couldn't find any official declaration which states that the 20th century is the atheist century. 2. Yes, the 20th century was, by many accounts, the deadliest, which isn't surprising when you consider the massive technological improvements which allow wars to move faster and be more deadly.
Nietzsche said of the 20th century, he said, we have disproved God, we have killed God, we have buried Him, but the 20th century will bear out the fruit of what we have accomplished. More people died in the 20th century as atheism gave birth to Marx and Stalin and Hitler and Mao and Darwin. We saw more people murdered by these men than in the entire 19 centuries previous.
Oh, this fucking guy just compared Darwin to Hitler.
And so if you want to see the fruit of Islam, all you have to do is you can go to Saudi Arabia or Iran, and you can see what Islam is really about whenever a government says this is true, this is right, this is what's acceptable. You can find out the fruit of Hinduism if you would like. You can go to India and find them starving by the multiplied millions. If you want to know the fruit of atheism, go to China and see the results of it there. If you want to know the fruit of Christianity, you can see it budding at the beginning of the United States of America and in the revivals and the Reformation of Europe as freedom swept across the entirety of the world.
Oh yes, let's please confuse the ideologies and add enough rhetoric to confuse the listener. Theism and atheism relate to a God claim, so if you wish to say theists are murderers, you need evidence to support that claim, and surely you could find theists that murder, and some that do not. This should emphasize the importance of not trying to loosely group people based on their beliefs.
Why I'm not an atheist? Because an atheist has no basis for morality.
Good job conflating and confusing what not being a Christian means. Is it too early to say I hate you? Because I do.
No basis for morality.
Morals are always subjective to the subject, for that is how subjects interact with their objects.
Well, isn't it possible for a communist or an atheist to be a good person? Are you saying that morality is only for those who hold to Christianity? That's not what I'm saying at all. You can be an atheist and be a good person. In fact, many atheists are probably better than many Christians.
Wow, somehow this isn't a problem for you to say? Sounds like you might be winding up some scarecrow.
As far as their decency and their respect for humanity. So I'm not saying that you have to be a Christian to be a good person, or that if you're an atheist, you are immoral. You can be a very moral person and be an atheist, but you cannot in any way provide a reason why someone else should be good to you if you're an atheist.
You can't have thought this line through much, or you just know that your flock isn't going to question it. To sum it up, I'll just say bad consequences and move on.
So the reason why I'm not an atheist is because there is no basis for morality in atheism. The best they can say when they see what's happening around the world is they can say, well, we understand as atheists that we're intelligent people, that in order to get along as a society, we have to be good to one another, and you can't steal and kill and do these things. So we, in order to get along, we have to be good. The problem is that they've sat in the ivory towers of intellectualism in our universities and have not been out into the real world. I've been in Pakistan, and I've met people who said, yes, there needs to be peace in the world, and we should all get along. I just get along better when you're dead. As an atheist, how do you respond to that? What do you say? You have no basis to say anything except to say it is impractical.
Incorrect, Pastor Allen. The atheists in this situation would resort to protecting themselves since they don't have a ghost daddy to beg.
What is to stop me from breaking into your house and stealing those things and destroying those things that matter to you? He said a 45. Is that what he said?
That's right, folks. believers resort to atheistic means of protection when Juju Papa fails them.
That's a good point. So why wouldn't atheists be for more lenient gun laws? Doesn't make any sense. Because you live in a world where there is nothing to stop anyone from doing that other than impracticality. You know it's more than impracticality. You know it's evil. And if you know that it's evil, you know that God is real. You know it in your heart. You possess that knowledge. You've just so clouded it and covered it over.
All right, so there's actually a lot more to this video, but it was just way too long, and it's the same thing over and over. Just atheists are bad, and you're going to go to hell if you're an atheist, so don't think about what you say and believe too much, because that might make you an atheist. Oh, and yeah, good. God is good, and anyone else who thinks differently is evil, even if they're good people. Yeah, I couldn't do this anymore, so I'm gonna go ahead and stop this here. I will not be going through the whole series with this guy. There's other people I can do videos on, but I mean, honestly, this well is already dry. If you liked it, if you see more of his videos, and you want me to take a look at it again, please let me know. Other than that, this chicken's cooked. Coming up, though, I do have 2 new series I'm going to be pumping out, as well as other ideas that I'm going to be tooling around with. I'm having a new series coming out where I'm doing movie reviews, and me and my friends go to the movies and give you guys our impressions and what our ideas, and of course it's going to be all spoilers because it's for movies that are out, so there's that. Spoilers are included from the start, don't forget that. Second series is I'm going to be having dinners or casual meetings with personalities, ideas, or characters, and it's going to be a whole lot of fun. It's going to be funny, and hopefully you guys like it as much as how excited I am about it. Yeah, in other news, I just had a daughter, and I've been playing lots of games and stuff, so I've been away from the video making, but I'm making an effort to come back to that. If you like what I do, tell your friends, have them subscribe, and be on the lookout for my new releases. Hit that bell so you don't miss them, and talk to you guys soon.